Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to another spiritual experiment. And today's experiment is based on the work of a spiritual teacher called Ramesh S Balsekar. And I first came across his work in an interview that I read when I was living in England. And in the interview, I'd never heard of him. He was a student of, I think it was Ramana Maharshi. But you can look him up. I'm sure he's on Google. But this interview, he was talking about how everything was preordained. Everything was meant to be. And so the interviewer would say, well, what about poverty in the world? Meant to be, preordained. Well, what about me making that terrible mistake? Preordained. Well, what about people who work really hard to be successful? Preordained. And the first page or so of the interview, I remember thinking, this is the bleakest philosophy I have ever come across. Like, it was victim-y to me. It was like, well, we have no choice. There's nothing we can do. Nothing we do matters. Even if something we do does matter, it was meant to be anyway, so it doesn't matter. And then I noticed somewhere around, it was a long interview, and I noticed somewhere around page 3 of the interview, I visibly and viscerally relaxed. My entire body just let go of a tension I didn't know I'd been carrying. And I realized, oh, it's the weight of the world that just came off my shoulders. I hadn't realized how much of my energy was being spent trying to somehow control the world, to somehow make things the way I thought they should be. And by the end of the article, I was feeling a profound sense of peace. Because if everything is meant to be, then you can't get it right, but you can't get it wrong. If everything is preordained, then you don't have to work everything out in your head. And if you do, that's okay too, because that was preordained that you were going to try and work everything out in your head. And I realized that I was off the hook for things I'd never realized I'd put myself on the hook for. Now, I've never gotten to a point where I have said, that's true. I don't know if it's true or not. I really don't. It's one of those things that in mathematics they call non-disprovable. You can't prove it, but you can't disprove it, because disproving it would be part of what was meant to be. It's just non-disprovable. But that also makes it a great subject for an experiment. So what if everything was preordained? Everything in the world, everything in your life. Everything that has happened up until now, everything that is happening now, everything that will happen going forward. Now, that doesn't preclude doing anything. It doesn't preclude thinking anything. It doesn't preclude feeling anything. You can still go out and change the world. It's just that it was preordained that you did that anyways. You can still go out and make a fortune. It's just that was preordained anyways. You could still go out and have a miserable life, but it's not really your fault, because that was preordained anyways. Now, it's an experiment. It is not the right way to live. It is not how you should be. It's just a really interesting experience to give yourself. And if you do decide to take on the experiment, to accept the invitation, then I encourage you to leave your comments and experiences of the experiment in the space below. Have fun, learn heaps, happy exploring, and I'll talk to you soon.